right. The stream is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Yay! Dungeons and Dragons!
I am Christiana Ellis. I am the Dungeon Master. Our players tonight, Jenny Meltzer as Zaylene,
Hello!
Paul Fisher as Zinhorn Windborn,
Good evening.
Starla Hutchton as Carolina Swift,
Hello, friends.
Vivid Muse as Trina of Harlee,
Hey, y'all.
Chute Sherwood as Sequential,
Hello, hello.
and Mark Kilfoyle as Nedry Shiny Rock.
I wonder if I can organize all of my questions into separate books. Would that make them easier to find?
Could be. So, who wants to talk about what happened last time?
Many things.
Everybody, apparently.
Many things.
What
All the
did
things
happen?
happened.
Yeah.
We left the spooky house and we walked down the street and ate some weird pies, and the dragon guy made a weird call thingy to somebody far away. And then we went to this really big place, and there was a house spirit, and everybody wants to experiment on me, and this other guy was really nice, but he gave everybody money and not me. That's all I remember.
Fair. So, the rest of you, having discovered this new friend, Zaylene, as you escaped the strange demi-plane that the Reclaimers Academy had been trapped in, you now have a dark elf / shadow infused person that is there and seems to have nowhere else to go. So you brought her home to Sunia Dion Turbello, the flying castle that you are currently making residence. You explained your accomplishment to Yobera and Brennan and Sorashana. Identified some loot. And also, both Nedry and Carolina were healed of your ghost-inflicted supernatural aging by Father Wilfram, although for Carolina this was done in secret, as she confided to him, and only him so far, that she is in fact a changeling and can change her appearance at will. This allowed her to not display her aging previously, and so it was a secret that she needed the cure. But in the meantime, you also learned that there might be some tricky legal aspects to the ownership of the academy because, you received ownership as part of a business venture with an organization under Yobert Relenth, who is not actually officially the head of his noble house, and so his brother, who is the head, technically gets a say on any new property that would belong to Yobert. So you might have to figure out how to, what needs to be done to suggest options for what might be done with the mansion. But that said, you have gotten out of that initial danger, and perhaps now you have just a little time to kind of settle in. And so what I'm thinking, actually, is that we're going to do, kind of, sort of, a week of downtime. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just going to say we each take 30 seconds and you do one roll for your downtime activity. We're going to do scenes as they feel appropriate, right? But we don't have to account for every minute of every day. So, to begin with, I know that one of the lingering threads from the last time was that Zinhorn and Father Wilfram were going to briefly discuss the plan for, like, what would you present if you wanted to try to persuade, Lord Relenth, Yober's brother, that he should give the academy building to the Church of Rashama. How would you attempt to persuade him of that? So, is that something that you would have you would spend some time on, Zinhorn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I kind of assumed that there would be other people at the church that would be more persuasive and understand those things better. I mean, like, I don't even know the guy, so I don't know, like.
Well, so what I would say is, you tell me if you feel like this is something where Zinhorn would really just like hand it off and say, I can maybe be the go-between when the time comes, but I am presenting this to Father Wilfram to go up the chain, and we're going to have those people be responsible for this, and you're not directly involved. Like, if that's your plan, we can absolutely do that, right? It's a question of just whether you want to be directly involved or not.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I don't want to be directly involved with that.
Okay. So what you will then do is rely on Father Wilfram to put this in front of the right people in the church to put together, like, a package where, like, they'll send some people to, check the state of the house, draw up some plans for what they would do with it if it were given to them, and bring that back so that you can help present that to Yober's brother. Does that sound like what you're thinking?
Actually, I thought you were talking about, like, going to meet with Yober's brother and trying to figure him out and what.
So there's two pieces here. There's two pieces, right? One is, if you're going to go to meet Yober's brother, you need to have something to show him, right? You're not going to just stand there and say, hey, you should give it to the church, and he'll say, and they'll do what with it? And you're like, I don't know, maybe make it an orphanage or something, and he'll say, this doesn't seem very well thought out. So you would want to have some.
Yeah, the first part I would definitely want to be part of.
Okay, so that is exactly what I was just saying. Is, do you want to be working with the church to help put together the proposal?
Yes,
okay.
That part. Yes, I thought you were talking about, like, how to butter the guy up so he would say yes to us.
No, you need the presentation first. So that's
okay.
So, now that you understand the question, you do want to be involved with that. So,
yes.
Tell me about
it. So we got to get some tradespeople together and somebody who's got some design sense, I guess, and go back and look at the various places. And I guess what we're trying to come up with is a vision for how this would operate as an orphanage, as well as a school. And we would, like, go through, I guess, follow the same path we took last time. Actually, no, we'd start on the main level and figure out, where's the kitchen going to be, where the classroom's going to be, where the staff going to live, where the kids going to live, how many kids can we fit in here, and kind of go room by room and figure out what we want it to look like. Try and figure out, the logistics of, like, keep making sure the kids are safe from each other and making sure the older boys and girls are separated from each other, and so on. And just kind of like, okay, the house is in really bad shape. It needs a lot of work. So as long as it's not a load-bearing wall, if we need to knock down a wall or put up a new wall, we can do that, because in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not going to cost that much more.
Right.
And then look around at the grounds and see, like, you know, can you set up sports areas for kids to play, and, you know, like a garden and all sorts of other things. And, you know, let everyone propose ideas, and then sit down with like a map and try and figure out what's going to work as far as living quarters, staff, laundry, food, storage, school, all that other stuff.
All right. So I think you certainly have assistance from church personnel and, you know, contractors with close connections to the church in making a lot of these assessments. So it's not all on you, but the assumption is that as one of the people representing the organization that was given ownership of it, and who was participated in clearing out what it was, there's kind of an expectation that you are directly involved with putting together this sort of dossier presentation package, you know, that's going to outline, you know, like, here's the renovations we would intend to do, here's what we, you know, envision the future state of the building to be, all of that sort of thing. So what skill do you think would best represent Zinhorn's participation and contribution to this this thing?
His organizational skills, having taken care of orphans for the last 6 or so years.
That makes sense. But what I'm specifically thinking about is your D&D character sheet skills, because you're going to roll a die. Yeah.
Hold on, I've got to rearrange my window. Let's see. I'm thinking that he would like go with insight.
Okay. So I mean, I'm not saying no. I'm just please elaborate on how you think the insight would directly apply here, because usually insight's intended to be for like reading other people and understanding people and their thoughts and feelings and stuff.
This is kind of reading the situation. Like, he's been living in an orphanage for 14 years, and transitioned from just being one of the orphans to being one of the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's seen both sides of it. He's got more insight as to how the younger kids view the place, how the older kids view the place, and how the staff view the place, and what it needs, and where at least his orphanage falls down in meeting the needs of everyone who is inside that building. And so I think he would have a lot of insight into how to start with that existing model and then iterate on it to make it better based on the confines of the architecture that they have just, for want of a better word, inherited.
Sure. All right, so that sounds good, and you certainly do have help in this, but so I would say that gives you advantage. But let's go ahead and see a roll for Zinhorn's contributions to this whole package.
Well, we're going to start with a 24.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And the second roll was a 10, so 24.
All right. So, you working with Father Wilfram and the other members of the church feel like, you're biased, of course, but you feel like you have a good persuasive package that you think would be something that would be really beneficial to the city as a whole and to lots of the orphans who might live there. But one question I'll ask you about this package, which was put together extremely well according to your role. Is there, what is the approach for making this not just like what you would want to do with it, but for how you are? Okay.
Hold on one sec.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well,
I got to jump downstairs.
Okay, you can't finish this 2-minute conversation first?
No, my kid's got a math class.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to another character then.
Sorry.
Okay. So, let's see. Shoot, I have another. Sorry, I thought I had this set right so that it wouldn't do this, but apologies, everyone. This will take just a moment to
Technology.
I have 2 heads.
Yeah.
Better than one.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Apologies, everyone. This will be resolved before too long here. Let's see. We've got. Yeah, this is our temporary window here. Yeah, I think we need another solution for this next time. And and we don't have Viv on camera at the moment anyway, so it's actually, this is fine for now. So we have, okay, Zaylene, we're changing gears.
Okay.
One of the things that was presented to you last time was that you would there's some interest from Sorashana in studying you, essentially, and wanting to find out more about you and what you are and what's going on with you and that sort of thing. And it was made clear that none of this study is something that you are obligated to subject yourselves to. It's just something that only what you are okay with. And I know that also so I guess part of the question for right now is, how much of that do you think you would have been willing to put up with right away, that evening, as you're back in the castle for the first time?
I actually probably would have avoided her entirely.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because, she seems so eager, and also I did say that I would talk to Nedry before that.
Sure.
And so I would have been kind of looking for ways to avoid her for the first little while.
Okay. So I think that makes sense and would have been fine anyway, because she was occupied by wanting to go over the new items, the objects recovered. So she and Nedry were kind of focused on that first evening, I think. And you had been sticking close to Trina as well, but I know that there was Sunia the spirit had some interest in speaking with you a bit too, and I think we can maybe have some of those conversations.
Okay.
All right, let's see. We're back to no, there we go. Okay, and now we put everyone back in their right positions. Yeah, we need to have another way to do this.
Entropy.
Yes. There's, well, yeah, okay. We'll work on this for the future. Um, but okay, now we've got everyone back, and we're back on screen. And so right now, what we are doing is, Zaylene, you were brought, I think, to up to, the bedrooms where, in fact, actually, what I'll go ahead and do is I'll put us on the castle level, and you can kind of see some of these areas here. So if you are in Roll20, you can see on this current map screen, or this way. Nope,
There
not that
we go.
one. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're on this map screen, you can see that this is the area where the others have been sleeping when they sleep. And so it's on this second level from the top with all these rows of cannons that are, enclosed in there. But you have, these areas, and I think you would have been presented with these, but knowing also that there's one that's kind of separate from everybody. You, of course, I think, well, here's a question. Dark elves, by standard, don't sleep per se. They do the trance meditation.
Mhm.
But what do you know about yourself as far as that goes? Like, what? So if you are told, where would you like to have your space for you to rest whenever you feel like you need to do that? You would see this room where the others sleep, or
Yeah, she would probably go and sit over in that far corner down in the lower right of that room. just,
well,
just sit on the floor.
so this corner is actually where the door is.
Okay.
The to the room, but like,
Well-
would she seek out like a private place? Because there are probably more private places to be.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that she would just kind of sit down, like with her back against the wall, and
Okay.
just sit there because she doesn't really know.
Maybe against the closet door here, just so you wouldn't be blocking the actual entrance to the room.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I think, there's maybe a moment where, would you have wanted to have Trina stay with you? She had been staying with you, but, as everyone's kind of settling in and kind of figuring out, like, oh, okay, we're just going to be staying here for the night, so.
Yeah, I would want her to stay there because everything
Okay.
feels so weird, and she's been really helpful. So, yeah, she would be okay with her staying there.
Okay.
Well, that's good because Trina's totally hovering.
Yeah, so I think, as you're in that spot, you still do have Sunya speaking to you, this spirit of the house, just saying, if you like this room, you are certainly welcome to stay here. We also have some other spaces that might be more private, if that's what you would prefer. Would you like anything to eat?
Maybe, but nothing salty. Everything was so salty. I like sweet things.
We have some fruits that we could bring up.
Okay, that would be nice. Thank you. You are the castle?
Well, in a manner of speaking. I suppose if you want to get technical, the castle is my material tether. I myself have no specific physical form, but I act upon the castle, and I am bound to it.
Did you choose that?
No, but that's because I didn't exist before I was manifest as connected to the castle. I've never known anything else.
Didn't exist?
That's correct.
You were nothing and then they made you something?
I was undifferentiated spiritual energy until the energy collected in sufficient amounts that I was able to manifest myself.
Oh,
At least that's how the experts explain it. I just know that for a while I was only just vaguely aware. I had general feelings about enjoying the people who lived here in the castle. And then gradually I became more and more aware until I became as I am now. And so I did not specifically choose it, but had I the ability to choose now, I would not choose differently.
so you like it?
Yes.
You do you have to stay here forever?
It's a good question. To some extent, as a spirit, I am somewhat shaped by the thoughts and feelings of the mortal creatures around me. And so, by that token, it may be that were things to change, I would change with them. And I would still not choose to leave because even if the circumstances around me were different, I would change to match them.
Well, what if they were bad circumstances?
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. But
Well, what if it did? And it was hard and it hurt you.
well, it's not something I really like thinking about. Is that what happened to you?
I don't know. I don't remember.
What I know about other spirits in places where bad things happen is that often the spirits that embody those places reflect the feelings of the mortal creatures who experience that place. And so if a place is thought of as scary or a bad place by the mortal creatures who experience it, then the spirit would likely reflect those feelings. If people were scared of a place, the spirit would become scary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's usually how it works, but it's all a bit ineffable. Many claim to understand it, but I think that there's a degree of uncertainty in everything.
Do they make you do things you don't want to do?
Oh no, no. I enjoy caring for the people who live here in the castle, and in fact, I'm actually very happy that more people are coming to stay. It used to be that the castle was much more full, but of late it had been fewer people, and although I do love them, I am glad that there's more now. It gives me a
I'm
sense of
glad that you're
satisfaction.
happy. I'm glad that you're happy. It's good to have that kind of purpose.
I think so.
Maybe we will talk more another time.
Anytime you like. I hope you will feel welcome here.
Thank you.
And after a bit, a platter is carried in by an unseen servant, and I think it has a selection of various fruits on it, like citrus and berries, and maybe like some pears and that sort of thing.
She just eats a lot of pears. She just starts eating pears.
Gotta eat those pears.
They're really good for you.
All right. So, sequential, we discussed a little bit. We had Nedry and Surashana when he was casting Identify on those artifacts, would Sequential have been there also, or what would he have been up to that evening?
Yeah, I think definitely that's always job number one, and the most interesting thing is to see, get a glimpse of what the new things do or help out in that regard. So it'd absolutely be up there.
Okay. So I think, you certainly learned the things that Nedry and Sorashana learned about those artifacts you brought back from the house, both, the mirror, the bag of protection, the deck of Vidunme cards, the dagger, and the circlet, of course. So, given what you learned about them, did you have anything you feel like, what would your suggestion have been, like what is to be done with them in the short term, at least? Nedry can participate in this too, of course.
Um, I've always gotten the impression that these are that we don't need to be too precious with these things, and we should immediately employ them to further our aims. So, so I think it's really a group discussion as far as who feels they would be inclined to use any of the different things.
Well, I mean, you can suggest that you would get the whole group together to have that conversation.
Yeah. I think that would be necessary before we embark on another campaign. But I don't know that I would really press it immediately. So I'm looking over some of the things of what they were again.
So, the bag
but,
of
yeah.
protection, that essentially it's sort of like an extra fancy bag of holding that has anti-magic field spaces and cells inside it, and it can suck in anyone who tries to reach inside but without being attuned. The problem being
Right.
someone else is currently attuned and you don't know how to break that.
That's going to take some investigation.
There's the Mirror of Life Trapping, which has its own ability to trap people inside only when it's activated. There is no one currently trapped in it. There's the dagger was just a dagger of blind sight. The tarot, or Vidunme, which is a set of cards that's somewhat like tarot deck, and it's like used for fortune telling, that you saw had the ability to trap people inside, but also has a number of other abilities. The ability to twist fate for different creatures, but it's a very powerful artifact. There's a risk that when you use it, you would accidentally release some of the things that are already trapped inside the cards without, as far as you know now, any real way to control how that would happen. And so it's very powerful, but with a potential for downside, for sure. And then the circlet, of course, has a lot of powerful effects that deal with, you can sense portals near you, you can prevent things from coming closer to you than you want them to, you can dispel abjuration effects, and many sorts of effects like that. Cast some spells from it and that sort of thing. So those were the artifacts in question that you have recovered. But would you have just been saying, like, maybe we don't make any decisions about it tonight, we'd get everyone together?
Yeah, that's what I think. It's this essentially make a nice catalog list that can be maybe discussed over dinner or lunch or something.
So, Carolina, what would you have gotten up to after saying goodbye to Father Wolfram?
Well, just given my location, I think I probably would have used the sending stone.
Okay.
And I would be sending a message to Siona. Because of anybody in the world, she is who I trust most. So Yeah, the message I would send would be, I have so much to tell you. Lots of adventures. Probably write a letter, but I need some advice.
And okay, and you leave it there?
Yeah, just because like there has to be a short message, so
Sure. It just doesn't really give a lot for her to reply to. It's kind of like,
well, yeah, just to make sure that she's like there and available to
Uh-huh.
Ping.
yeah. So I think that the reply would be something to the effect of, uh, it it's very good to hear from you. It sounds like you have something serious, but didn't really tell me what it is.
All right, and then the next message would be confided in Priest of Rushama, was very understanding and nice. He suggested I find other trustworthy people to share with. I'm counting words. So I only get 25.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Obviously, that's a big decision. Uh, but I think you have a good sense of character. It's important to be able to talk to people about the things that are important.
I love how everybody just like has to count it out of their fingers while they're doing it to that weird sort of cadence that happens. I love that. It's just hilarious.
It's fun. It's fun to do that.
I think I know. It's like counting syllables
Yeah.
for haiku or something.
And then one more message. Thank you. I was wondering if there was any chance you might come visit in the future soon.
Well, it's been a while since I last came to the city, but maybe sometime in a couple of weeks I would be free.
And one more message. You hit my mic. It's no rush. Just would like for you all to meet, if possible.
We'll make it happen. Don't get yourself killed before then. Can't wait to meet your new friends.
And just because they're free, I would say, thank you, miss you.
Someone's paying your sending stone bill. Miss you too.
So then after that, would probably wander around, see what everyone else is up to. Probably not the research facility, but probably more like where Trina and Zaleen are.
Mm-hmm.
That's more interesting.
Okay. Does anyone else have like conversational scenes that you would want to have that evening as you're settling back into your place here?
I mean, aside from kind of the what we had talked about last time with revealing what the items did, and Nedry's unbounded excitement in talking to Sorashana and Sequential about them, and then sort of still talking, but then turning back to his book and writing furiously to try to get his thoughts down on paper, which is where people will find him the next morning, as usual, hunkered over his book, pen in hand, his little green jade bottle sitting beside him, dark.
Would that be like in the brood?
That'd be in the workshop. He
Okay.
barely ever makes it to his bed.
Okay, so I'm gonna do my meditation for 4 hours, and then after I'm done, I'm gonna actually wander around
Okay.
until I find Nedry. And when he wakes up, I'm gonna be sort of like perching on the edge of the desk, just staring at him. So when he wakes up, like I'm sitting there.
One thing you probably notice is that the book he's half written in has 2 different handwriting styles. They're quite distinct and very different.
Yeah, she wouldn't even look at that. She's just looking right at you. She's just waiting for you to wake up, like, hello.
It would be several hours unless you actually woke him up because he'd need
No.
the full rest.
He would just sit there, just wait and stare at you the whole time.
Okay.
She's very patient.
Question for Nedry, as far as your book. How much detail about the artifacts that you found did you write in the book?
Probably writes everything in the book
Okay.
that he can,
Okay.
including tons and tons of theories. So sometimes it's hard to. There's no like one paragraph just covering any one thing. It's the paragraph starts, then he gets distracted, puts down 4 or 5 theories. There's margin. If you actually ever see my books, it's very similar where there's a main stuff and then there's boxes everywhere of side thoughts
Yeah.
that he's having at the same time. So it's a little hard to read, but it's
And the bottle similarly, or?
doesn't really write much about the bottle anymore.
Okay. Well, no, I don't mean that you're writing about the bottle, but that the what goes in the bottle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably the most coherent part of what he writes down.
That is when you've gotten everything down. You sort of distill it down.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Because he's had complaints about that before.
Okay. Well, perhaps I think Zaleen, as you're perched watching Nedry sleep, make a perception check.
I gotta get used to doing that on the screen.
I mean, you can use physical dice if you want. That's fine.
I'm curious about this because I have disadvantage when I'm in direct sunlight. So when I roll that, is it going to roll disadvantage every time?
It shouldn't, or even if it did, you don't have to take disadvantage. It'll just roll twice.
Okay.
So you would
Just
just
always
use
take the first
one.
roll.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that's
it's a 21 and a 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that at a certain point, after you've been watching Nedry for a while, just watching him sleep, you kind of are aware of a shift in the shadows around you in this room, and you kind of glance over and you see a mask looking at you with bright red lenses, not glowing, but just red tinted, and a metallic mask that you recognize as being what Sorashana was wearing up on top of her head before. But she is crouched in the hallway watching you, much like you were watching Nedry.
I pretend I don't notice.
It's the creepiest roommates ever.
It's the real world. Like, I know she's there, but I act like I don't know. And like every once in a while, I just sort of peek over out of the corner of my eye to see what she's doing.
Okay. I think the first time you turn around and you essentially you make eye contact because she's looking right at you, she does not say anything. She just like withdraws back into the darkness.
Oh. Stare more at Nedry.
Yeah.
Blink, blink.
And then I think after a moment, you hear a whisper from around the corner saying, "I'm sorry for staring if that was creepy. I'll see you in the morning."
Okay. Maybe.
She's gone.
Okay.
All right. So, as everybody is, able to finish their long rest and, sleep wherever you ended up sleeping or not, as the case may be, for those of you who don't need to or do something else, once again, breakfast is being served up on the roof if you want to go up and eat with where Yobera is eating, but you could also, eat inside if you wanted. But it's up to you to kind of decide what you're wanting to do for the day. And then, like I've said, we've kind of done a few conversational scenes here. I would say we can do a conversation scene anytime you want to, but we can also just say, here's what we get up to today, that sort of thing.
Trina would have requested some sweet fruit pastries for Zaylene. That's like, obviously doesn't need to be role played. She would have just asked for the house to provide some for her to try.
Sure.
Variety of them.
Well, I think that Brennan is making strawberry pancakes today, so he says we can go out and get some, fancier pastries at some point, but this is what I've got fresh and ready.
I think when Nedry wakes up, he sort of picks up his pen right away and starts writing. It's very incoherent and he's not exactly awake, but he starts writing right away as if to capture the dream he's just had, or maybe he thought he was in mid-thought and he imagined, if you've ever had an academic dream where you wake up and you think you're in the middle of an exam, it's kind of that sort of startling moment, and then looks over halfway through the line and sees Zaylene there and is a bit startled and taken back, and then sort of half falls off the chair. Oh, am I late? Is it late or morning?
Maybe. You were sleeping.
I think so. It's sometimes hard to tell.
It's about 7 a.m., Nedry.
Well, he doesn't know what time it is because he doesn't have access to windows in the workshop. But
Sunia just told you is my point.
oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was Sunyi.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's just morning. Oh, how long have you been there?
Hours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to talk about something? I was asleep. I didn't realize. I guess you were there.
That's okay. I just wanted you to be able to talk to me. You wanted to talk to me. That creepy girl was lurking.
Who?
That girl with the weird.
Oh,
thing.
Sarashana.
Yeah, her.
The mask
She was-
is special. I don't know exactly why. It has something to do with her ability to interact or detect or maybe be protected against pocket dimensions and interdimensional rifts. At least I think so. She hasn't really explained a lot of it. I'm not really sure if she entirely understands or has a hard time explaining things.
I don't know. She was just creeping.
What do you mean?
She was lurking, creeping outside the door. I think she might like you.
I don't. I mean, no.
How do you know? Did you ask her?
Well, no, it didn't come up. I mean, I never really. No, I don't think so.
I don't know. Why else would she be lurking? I'm just saying. Just think
Well,
about
this
it.
is technically her workshop, so
Well,
if-
Okay. But anyway,
Maybe-
you wanted to talk to me, and I didn't want her to take that from you.
Oh, well, that's nice. Sarashana wants to talk to you too. She's very,
Okay.
very smart, and she knows a lot of things that I don't, which I'm trying to learn, but it's slow.
Do you want her to be there when you talk to me?
I think she would certainly appreciate that,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Okay. I just told you I would talk to you, and
I appreciate that. I have a lot of questions. Do you remember much yet? Did a night's sleep make it easier to remember things?
I don't sleep.
You don't sleep?
No.
Oh. Never?
Not that I know of.
Huh. It must be an elf thing, I think. Kind of jealous of that, really. If I could regain some time and not have to sleep all the time, imagine how much more I could get done.
Yeah, but you do so much. I think you need to sleep,
I do get
because
tired.
if you didn't, then maybe you wouldn't remember things.
Oh, that's a nightmare of mine.
It's
I don't
not
want
so
to forget
bad.
anything.
It's not so
How do you-
bad.
How do you know? I mean, if you don't even remember what you've forgotten, then it could be all the important things. Maybe you were on the verge of a breakthrough and then you just forget it. Or maybe all of your students. Or some important lesson you were about to teach. Or anything.
I don't think so.
I really would like to know what you were teaching there.
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember those things.
Well, there are spells and ways to try to regain memories if you want to.
I don't think so.
I guess I understand.
If
Some
I
really
forgot things, maybe bad things happened that made me forget. Maybe I shouldn't remember.
I'm pretty sure a lot of bad things happened there. But that's why I want to know more about them. If I know what went wrong, then I can make
I did
sure
bad
that...
things.
What?
What if I did the bad things?
I don't know. You don't seem like a bad person to me. Do you feel like a bad person? How would that feel? How would you even know?
I don't know.
Well, as long as you don't do anything bad, then
Maybe-
you're not a bad person, are you?
I don't know. Maybe I will ask my mistress. She knows lots of things.
Yeah, you mentioned her back at the house or the academy. You asked her if you could leave. I have my suspicions about
She
who you
protected
might have
me.
been. Do you know who it is? Or anything about that key?
She's the mistress.
Right.
She's the mistress. That's who she is.
Does the full name Mistress of the Dark mean anything to you?
Yeah. That's who she is.
It confirms one theory of mine, at least. It wasn't exactly that difficult to figure out, but I don't know much about her, but she doesn't have a great reputation.
To who? How could she not?
Well,
She's amazing.
how do you find
She
her
saved
amazing?
me. She protected me.
You remember something?
She was
then?
there. I remember her.
You remember her?
I
Well,
could
that's-
never forget her.
Well, that's a good step forward.
maybe we could ask her some things. Do you think we could?
I don't know.
Hmm.
She doesn't always answer.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I have a lot of questions that people don't answer. Most of them sort of walk away.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't remember much, and I have a lot of questions, but I feel like you're not going to remember a lot of the details. So maybe this would be another way to go about it. If you do remember something, can you promise to tell me about it?
I will try. I can't promise that, but I will try. I know it means a lot to you.
I'm just trying to understand. Like the trick with the shadow. Are you a trained mage? Or more like Zinhorn?
What, you mean this? And I use my cloak and do what I did before.
Yeah. That's amazing. Is that something you can just do?
The mistress
or...
gave it to me.
Oh. So more like Zinhorn then. Huh. Do you know if there's... Can you do anything else?
I can do lots of things.
Oh.
Some of them are dangerous, but necessary. And I will cast darkness on the room.
Okay.
So now we're in complete and total magical darkness.
Wow. This is really thick. Did you make me blind?
No,
Oh.
I protected us from the light.
Oh, that's right. The
The
light
light
bothers
can't
you,
hurt us
doesn't
in
it?
here. Yes.
Well, I'm not very good at light, but we might want to tell Zinhorn. He tends to use a lot of light. And I think Carolina did too, but hers were different. A different spell, I imagine.
Lights, like, what do you mean? I can do that too, but it's different.
Does your light bother you? I wouldn't imagine it does,
No,
because that wouldn't make any sense.
no.
Zinhorn lights things up.
I can't show you because it's dark. The darkness would eat it.
Well, that makes sense. I'm still learning. I might be able to stop the darkness sometime, but not today. It's a
Why
pretty
would
neat
you want
trick.
to? Yeah.
Well, it makes it hard to see, which I know is kind of the point, but I need to
Yeah.
see things in order to do things. Well, that's another nightmare. If I ever go blind, I don't know what I'll do.
I'm sure Zincorn could fix your eyes if that happened.
Maybe. Hopefully. Did you hear that?
Eventually the darkness goes away. Did I hear what? What?
I think that was my stomach.
Okay. I hear it.
They serve really good breakfasts here. Brennan's a really good cook. At least I think he's the
Okay.
cook. There are a lot of spirits here. I mean, really, it's just Sunya, but there are a lot of sort of minor manifestations of spirits. I'd show
Are
you
they
mine, but
happy?
well, I don't think they have happy or sad. Sunya seems happy, at least. Freya's never really said anything. I don't think she actually can.
Doesn't that seem kind of unfair?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you just assume that she doesn't have feelings.
Well,
And
Sunya seems to have feelings, but Freya, can't really assume anything.
what is
Even calling her.
Freya?
Well, even calling her Freya is a little bit of an experiment. It's the result of a spell that I can do, but it seems to have some independence. Not much. In fact, very, very little. But I'm hoping over time, if I keep reinforcing that it has a name, maybe it will become a full spirit, maybe. And I don't know. It's just another experiment. But I think they have feelings, sort of. And then there's Sequential. He's an entirely different kind of thing altogether. I'm not sure if he's more like, well, me, or more like Sunya, or sort of halfway in between. It's rather intriguing.
So many things you want to know.
Of course, I want to know all the things. I guess I should be glad that I got those 20 years back, because that's a lot of things to know.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you want?
I don't even know.
Well, that's okay. It takes people a long time to figure what they want to know. I can't really find only one thing I want to know, which means it takes me a long time to know anything. Trying to know it all at once. My mother said it was something like drinking from the waterfall. I didn't understand it for a long time until I tried to drink from a waterfall, and then I understood pretty quickly.
You're lucky you didn't drown.
Well, but I learned a lot. And sometimes it takes a little risk and experimentation to learn more.
We should eat.
What do you eat?
And I just kind of imagine that's the end of the conversation as they walk
Did
along.
you make your way up to the roof to join the others for breakfast?
I presume at some point Zaylene drops the darkness.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, Nedry, is from the. Oh shoot! I don't have the full name of it up. The Eclectic Society.
Oh, Tessotam.
Yeah, Tessotam. How do you you had sent out like some correspondence to people related to that, as opposed to like the specific newsletter, right? So how would you normally expect to receive replies to that? Is it like sending it by letter, by mail?
No, it's literally flying paper.
Okay.
It just could arrive at any time.
One of those things that I put some thought into. So the way that sort of thing works here in the city is that it is certainly true that the sort of paper birds or paper airplanes that we saw in the last campaign, where you address a certain magic letter to someone and it flies to them, certainly became more common. But then in a big city, it got to a point where there was just so many that it was literally like not merely a nuisance, but an actual hazard, how many of them were just constantly all over the place. And so what has since been ruled in the city is that they have kind of a distribution network where you buy the ones that are for in-city use, and you put them in certain like drop boxes, and then they are carried to by magical constructs to various distribution locations. So it only has to fly that last little bit. And that's how those generally work. That's not to say that people don't still use the kind that just flies through, but you're not supposed to. And it's a question of like whoever's in charge of enforcing in that area and how much they care about it and that sort of thing, so I would imagine there are people who are paranoid and everything and don't want to have their letters go through the Empire's postal service. But generally speaking, that's how it would work, is that you fill it out on the magic page and then you take it to one of the drop boxes.
Okay. So probably since he hasn't had a chance to update his address, it would be still going to Master Finster's tower.
Well, no, my understanding is unless you have it addressed to the tower, it would go to where you are, because that's the magic
Oh, okay.
of it.
Okay.
Unless you are like shielded from divination or something like that.
Right. Right. Which I don't think I am.
No, and then so in fact,
how would I
actually,
know?
what happens is that as you emerge onto the roof, you are kind of thwapped in the face by a couple of different pages.
Oh,
Excitedly kind of try to rearrange them into the right order.
news is in.
Yeah. So I have not like written out every single one of these, but this is basically the batch of replies that you've gotten from your initial inquiries. And several of them relate to things that you've kind of already found out more about, like people letting you know that Professor Tinthus still teaches at the university. One person says that they did take the probabilistic incantations class, but they, in their opinion, it was more theoretical and less practical than they were hoping. And then you also got a specific reply from Zuda Yesk saying, explaining there's a big difference between magically conjured extra-dimensional spaces, like in, say, a portable hole or a bag of holding, versus a naturally or supernaturally occurring demiplane. And even though the term pocket dimension sometimes gets used for both, in her opinion, it shouldn't be used for intentionally conjured spaces, versus demiplanes, which occur between other planes without direction. On the other hand, they're a lot more unpredictable, but that's not what she studies. So she's basically pedantic about using more precise terminology than pocket dimensions. But then you also get a couple of replies explaining what you've already learned about Marushka, namely that is a spirit of like ocean journeys that is not very commonly worshipped, just because there's really not actually that many people that ever go out on the ocean. But one does let you know that there is, as far as they know, the only real temple to Marushka is in Emersham on the east coast. So, like, if you really wanted to find out more about them, that would probably be the place to go. Then, as you're kind of flipping through all of this, I imagine you're sort of sorting through that at the breakfast table. There's one small little note that doesn't have any kind of a return address or identity to it. And it doesn't have any of like the, like, referring to your letter date of whatever. It just says, "Where did you learn about Dinuther? We should meet. Under the Elder Street Bridge, Thursday at midnight. Come alone." Thursday is 3 days away.
Intrigue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just busy trying to keep up with notes.
Oh, sure.
That doesn't sound like a trap at all.
So, Nedry's going through notes. Zaleen gets to try some strawberry pancakes. Anyone else have like business for the breakfast, or would you be having a conversation about the artifacts? Because I think, I think it makes, well, I guess I don't want to put that on you. You guys decide if you're having that conversation or not. What Sequential and Nedry, is that those things that you recovered are powerful, and right now you've just got them sitting on a table in the workshop.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully intend to have the conversation when everybody's present.
Well, so we'll
a
just
meal.
go ahead and say that's
Yeah.
now. Everybody has kind of finished eating breakfast, and they're still all kind of just hanging out at the around the table up there.
Since Sequential doesn't eat while people were eating, they would have been fiddling with a deck of playing cards and
A standard deck, not the
a
magic
standard deck of
yeah.
playing, not the special tarot deck, or Yeah, not the
Okay,
special
just
deck.
just clarifying.
Standard playing cards and actually doing practicing card tricks.
Go ahead and make a sleight of hand while you're at that.
Shuffle, shuffle. Ooh, 19.
That's pretty good.
Carolina would definitely be watching that with interest.
Pick a card.
Carolina will definitely take a card because she wants to see where this is going. Why are you learning card tricks?
Well, I think I mentioned before in my past on the road, people have a lot of misconceptions about me or would make their own assumptions about me. And many of them were correct initially because I did not have much experience around people. And a lot of people took advantage of me. And, between my builder and myself, there were not really secrets or lies. And apparently that's a really big, important part of society. And, well, I thought maybe I should learn how to lie. And somebody once said that trickery or illusion and magic is the highest form of deception. So started learning how to do tricks and deceive in that manner. I mean, I still don't really feel the need to lie, but it seems to come in handy for a lot of people for different reasons.
I think the biggest reason that people might lie or keep secrets is just to protect themselves.
Secrets are horrible.
Hmm.
All they do is just delay things. And that's why research is so important. They uncover all those silly secrets.
Sometimes secrets are necessary.
I agree.
Sometimes secrets are very necessary.
Like when?
Well, what if you did something really embarrassing and it would change the way other people thought about you? Would you just go and tell everybody, oh, this one time I wet my pants in front of everybody at school and you should know this about me?
In my experience, people find out about that stuff anyway. And it's just more embarrassing then. I mean, they don't bother telling people, but it doesn't really feel like a secret.
Well, take, for example, this mystery we're looking into with the nightmares. Now, if nobody knew about that, then nobody would be trying to break these wards that are on it. And that might keep it safe and locked away.
But by studying it, you can find better ways to keep it locked away or even destroy it. By keeping it hidden, you're just making people more dangerously prone to falling into it. I mean, imagine those two people that we met in the academy. They didn't know anything, and to them, everything was scary. But if they knew, then it wouldn't be scary.
How do you know?
Because I know, and it's not scary.
It was scary there.
There were some
You were
magical
scared.
effects.
That's
I saw
subjective.
You were
There were some
scared.
magical effects that bothered me.
Fear
But if I
isn't
knew
really
more-
something you can decide that someone else should or shouldn't have, though, Nedry. It's just, I think, is the point that people want to make. You know? Different things are scary to different people.
I guess. I just don't like the idea of people hiding away knowledge. It's what the universities tend to do. It's what
Well,
all of the big researchers tend to do.
But you don't necessarily have a right to know everything.
Yeah, not everything is your business to know all the secrets of. And you have to
It's
be
very greedy
respectful
and
of boundaries.
selfish.
Yeah.
There's
I just
also
wanna
inherent danger in the world. If you mix the right set of materials together, they could explode and kill people. And if you have somebody who knows about it but doesn't believe it or doesn't understand how big the explosion's going to be, they can hurt themselves and they can hurt others.
That just means they don't really know all about it. They think they do, but they're fooling themselves.
Yeah, and that's why certain
Knowledge
things
is better.
Yeah, but the knowledge on how to deal with it is given incrementally, a little at a time, so that people can get some respect for what they're dealing with.
That's
Not
different, though.
everybody-
They're still given
but-
it.
Not everybody that knows something is going to use that in a positive way. And I think you're taking that for granted. You might not use a bit of dangerous knowledge to hurt people, but there are lots of people who would.
But that doesn't mean I shouldn't know about it. Maybe that other person should be stopped. Doesn't
if-
necessarily mean that they shouldn't know about it either, and no matter how much I tell them, they'd probably know it anyway.
But what if you did know about it and somebody hurt you because you knew something they didn't know and they wanted to get that from you?
Then they'd probably hurt me anyway.
I definitely see a difference between secrets. I see a need for some secrets, personal secrets, and secrets that maybe keep you safe.
I think some knowledge is uninteresting. I
Well-
think a lot of knowledge is uninteresting, but a lot of it really needs to be known.
Literally
And secrets-
nobody, though, Nedry, literally nobody has a right to know everything about everybody. Like if you want to learn about a subject, that's cool. But when it comes to people, whether it's me or Zaylene or someone else we meet later, you have to be respectful of their boundaries or else they're just going to stop giving you any information. So I think that people just want to make sure you understand those boundaries because they can be limiting for yourself if you don't respect them. Other people's boundaries, that is.
I think there's a difference between their internal knowledge that I'm not interested in and secrets they're keeping from me that I might be interested in.
You still don't necessarily have the right to know them.
And
That's something
the
I got to
point.
figure out and know, I guess.
Yeah. I think that that's something that we're just going to have to agree to disagree on because we're not going to convince Nedry of any differently. It's something Nedry's got to learn. We're not.
I agree.
He is very young.
I've got a lot to learn, I suppose.
Yobert kind of pipes in, is like, well, he's certainly not the only one. Those that follow Solomonia certainly would agree with the proposition that secrets, even while well-intentioned, are generally, a negative influence in the world. The idea that information should be free and shared. I'm not saying that I necessarily believe that entirely, but I think there's something to it. I think there's the difference between a secret and something just not spoken. But I think when something is a secret, namely something that's withheld even when it would be relevant, I think it comes down to the reason.
I'll have to research Queen Solomonia more.
I feel like you two would probably get on pretty well.
She did not believe in secrets at all. Or at least, well, she didn't believe anything should ever be kept secret from her. I don't
What
know
did
how
the
stories
universal
say?
She certainly has secrets, and it has been said.
Anyway, most of your secrets, if you have any, I'm not really interested in. Like if you did, I guess, wet yourself in school. What I am interested in is the secrets of that academy. There's still so much more to learn there. I'd like to take a few days and just study it. Especially because I have a fear that it might be fading away. Or worse, the building might be given away.
Well, I'm going to take a pass on that. I was actually thinking that maybe Zaylene might want to see some of the city.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you don't want to, it's absolutely not necessary, but I thought it would be fun.
Yeah, it's okay. I just don't I don't know. I don't know things. You know?
Well, and it would be educational in that way. Because I would be happy to explain anything. Oh, any one of us would. You're all invited, of course.
If we go at night, then the sun won't bother you as much. So maybe we should just shoot for the evening, and it'll probably be less crowded out on the streets too, without people going to and from work and marketplace type places.
Yeah.
Things are very different in the day than they are at night, though. Different kinds of people around, different businesses open, different activities going on. So really, to get a full picture of the city, you would have to kind of see it in both states. I totally understand your discomfort with the sunlight. It makes absolute sense. So if you would rather wait until this evening, that is perfectly fine.
What if we went at the end of afternoon and things in daytime are still there, but transitioning towards nighttime, and I could wear the sunglasses that you gave me for a little while so I could get a good picture of everything.
For what that's worth, the roof is, open to the sky, but partly shaded by the tier that's, the platform on the sky tower that is above. So you could have been in the shade, but it is during the day outside right now.
I would definitely be wearing the sunglasses.
Yeah, so not in direct sunlight, but certainly it's, it's light out. You're just sitting in the shade.
I thought maybe one of the things that we could do, Lord Gilbert, you mentioned a merchant that you had a contract with, Sticky Zicky. That might be a good place to pick up a few things for Zaylene, because she doesn't have anything. And I think it would just be nice to meet a contact and familiarize ourselves.
Certainly. I mean, that's you have. I've arranged for a line of credit for you there.
All right. As far as our mystery goes, I did have one thought. Now, we've been to the library, but there is a whole wealth of knowledge that's not been written down, that is only passed down through songs and stories told. So I was thinking there might be some bards within the city that would have some knowledge of Dawn's Tear. Maybe some obscure story or piece of information that wouldn't be in a library.
Interesting.
Christiana, did you give further thought to that thing I had mentioned
Yes.
before?
Yeah. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted looking for my. I've got, first of all, this little light that keeps going off and on. This is a technical difficulties evening. But so yes, you had. I switched away from the notes. Yes, there's a club you know of that would not probably be somewhere you would want to take a whole group of people. But there is a place called the Broken String that is kind of where like bards and other just like performers. It's literally the bar where there is a little stage, but it's where like entertainers perform for each other, and there's an expectation there that this is not where the general audience goes. This is where they hang out to talk shop and complain about Philistines who don't know what they're talking about and that sort of thing. So it's
So
kind of like the after club. Like, everyone goes and performs at whatever tavern they usually go to, and then afterwards they go and hang out and say, "Oh, I had the worst audience tonight." It's like, "Oh, they don't know, like they don't understand how hard it is to perform that song when and so on." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
know that
yeah.
that's a place that you could go, but that's like I said, it's a relatively small place. You kind of have to prove yourself a little bit to be welcome there. So showing up with a bunch of non-performers
Right.
in tow would not be welcome.
Right. So, yeah, I would mention this place, and while it is technically open to the public, it's more like it's understood that it's, where performers hang out, and it's kind of our safe space, I suppose. Like when you have a tough night, you just want to let your hair down and kind of vent a little bit. That's where we go. So I thought, I could go and check that out and see if anybody knew anything.
Wherever you want to go, I will go.
I might have a lead on Denethir as well. I'm going to try to meet someone in a couple of days, and they should give me a little more information.
Who are you meeting?
They didn't give their name, which is rather frustrating.
Little
But it's one of the
suspicious.
Tezotam contributors, so there's that.
How did you find out about this?
They sent me a note in response to my inquiries.
I think it's also not obvious that you all would know what he means when he says Tezotam.
He assumes everybody knows about it, but that's the nature of the academic in many ways.
Well, I don't know what this Tessa, whatever it is. I don't know what that is, but this person didn't leave their name in a note to you, and they want to meet?
And I guess, not surprised you don't know Tessatem. Its readership has been growing for the last, 50 years or so, but it's still somewhat of unfortunately lesser known journal. Tessatem stands for the Esoteric Society of the Awakened Mind. Maybe a little bit pretentious, but honestly, it fits.
They probably need better marketing.
No, that's probably true. It's one of those things that once you know, you know. But how do you know?
So
Anyway, I've
when are
submitted
we
a few
going to this
proposals for
meeting?
articles. I'll be going there on Thursday.
By
In
yourself?
between.
Do you really think that's a good idea?
I can take care of myself. Besides, it's an academic.
Well,
Are you sure?
you don't know who it is. It's
Oh,
just somebody who sent you a letter.
Well, once I meet them, I'll ask them their name.
Is it in a
No,
public place?
I would imagine so. I've never been to the Elder Street Bridge, but it's not far. Actually, I'm
Would
not
I
sure
know
how far it
anything
is.
about that bridge?
Yeah, what do I know?
Yeah, it's like the bridge itself. Just it crosses over kind of like a canal in the city. Like it's not, the city is landlocked, so it's not really like a bay or anything like that. It's just it's just a little area where it's kind of like the LA River, right? It's just it's a canal through the city where there is some open water, but the bridge goes over it. It's not very big or long, but it's also not in a super great neighborhood. It's kind of just It's a little run down there. It doesn't get a lot of foot traffic usually.
I really think we should accompany you.
Yeah.
Well, they asked for me to come alone, so I don't imagine they'd
Oh.
agree to that.
What if
That's
what if we just hid and kept an eye on you to make sure that you were okay? Because this sounds kind of shady.
Sounds very shady.
Saline, you can do that awesome thing you
Does
did that in
sound
the
shady.
mansion where you were like a shadow.
Yeah.
I
She
don't
would
want
be
to scare
really
them.
good at that.
Ooh,
Not all
they
the
wouldn't even
academics.
see me. You don't know the kinds of things that I can do. I can be in the shadows.
Well, I'm trying to find out all the things you can do, but that aside, I don't like it either in a way. I like to know who I'm dealing with to give them proper credit when I write the articles. But I'll know as soon as I meet them.
See, Nedry, the thing is, remember that conversation we were having about secrets and lies? Not everybody shares your outlook on that.
And we don't know if this person, we aren't sure that this person has your safety, which is what makes it less of a secret and more information that we need to have, because we all want to make sure that you're safe. Nobody wants to eavesdrop. I don't want to eavesdrop or know what they want to tell you and no one else, although it kind of flies in the face of, this sharing secret things like Carolina was just saying. We just want to make sure you're safe. So
I appreciate that.
It's
but
less about breaking their secret and more about just keeping a watchful eye on you to make sure that it's who you expect to show up.
And
I'm
remember,
not exactly sure if I expect anyone in particular.
well, remember also that, we were just at the academy, and you saw what lengths that Isolde was willing to go to protect those secrets.
I know. That makes them even more better to know. It means they're really, really important.
Okay.
Means they're really, really
so
dangerous.
yeah. Then I think caution is definitely more. You agree then caution's warranted because big secrets means more danger means. So
Personal danger
we should
for
just
you.
be cautious.
Not a lot of people know about Denethor, it seems. And I am kind of curious about who it is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
As long as you can be entirely hidden, I won't know you're there.
And
And
that,
therefore
know-
I couldn't have a problem.
Just last night, I had sparked on this idea of a way to refract light and here. And he'll just do kind of a click. And he sees some of these little portions of metal kind of shine a little bit. And mechanically, it's the invisibility spell. He goes invisible.
Wow.
where did he go?
And get up and walk around the table. So yeah, in theory, you shouldn't be able to see anything really, but
I can do that too.
That's
Totally
very
forgot.
I mean,
There you go. Now we just need a way to make Zinhorn less visible. And we could be there and no one would even know.
I'm not entirely familiar with the area. Maybe there are places you could watch from a distance?
What if we go there before and check it out and we could make a plan of where we would be so we know? Then you would go there, you would understand the area and know.
It could be one of the things that we do today when we go out exploring the city. We can go check it out.
That sounds like a good
Scope the
idea.
scene.
More knowledge is good. I'm torn about whether I should go look at it myself. It's not entirely unlike me to want to know more, but at the same time, it makes me look like I'm suspicious.
Do you
Well,
think
I
they're
would
watching you?
I would be happy to make a sketch or something of that nature for you, if it would help. Because I think maybe if you personally showed up, that might arouse some suspicion. You never know.
yeah, if they if that's an area the person hangs out at.
It's up to you. If you want to go, you are more than welcome.
I hate not knowing something, but
We will
maybe
tell
I
you.
should hold back. Just be careful. We
A
haven't
slight
got a lot of.
modification. I could actually, I could use this invisibility on pretty much anybody. So if somebody else was more appropriate, perhaps Trina.
I can certainly help in that regard as well.
Happy to go where you need me.
I mean, it would make me feel better to know that you were there, even if I couldn't see you.
Then I'll be
I
there.
don't think that they're dangerous necessarily, though. Given what happened at the Reclaimers Academy, if it truly was all about Dinethir, and this person knows something about Dinethir and knows what happened to those who looked into before, they very well could have really good reasons to being careful.
Mm-hmm.
Still think they should give me their secrets, though, and they're trying to.
You hope.
Unless, you're a lead and they want to contain the knowledge and they want to
Yeah.
make you disappear to contain that knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's someone who believes in secrets, and specifically in that secret, they may think that you already know too much.
And I
The
care
only way to
more
know that
about
is-
what?
The only way to know if they're really worried about me is to meet them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I can't speak for anybody else, but I care more about you than a secret. So I'm happy to watch you while you find the secret and make sure you're safe.
I appreciate that. Although the knowledge is far more important.
Not to me.
It is to me.
Again, we must
That's
all
why we make a good
agree
team.
to disagree.
I think it makes us make a good team, though. I can watch him. He can get the info. We'll make it work.
Yeah. I do wonder who they are. From what we saw, there weren't any survivors of the academy. Although there were a few people who snuck in afterwards. So there might have been students or professors who weren't actually there at the time. Now that it's been cleared, that means I have to go back there as soon as possible.
And
If there's
remember-
anything else to be
Oh,
found there,
Sinhorn, that reminds me. You should ask if the temple knows who might have removed the remains of the Chanticleer family.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good thing to remember to do. I will make a note of that right now.
Good call.
and the rest of the remains too.
Yeah. So I think Yobert would say, I guess my conclusion had just been that, when the disaster happened and people went to investigate, that they chose to not leave decaying corpses in the building and instead returned them to their families. But you're right that the Chanticleer line was eradicated that night, so it's not clear where they would have been taken. Are you concerned with their bodies in particular, or?
Well, it just occurred to me that while it was really creepy, it seemed like there had been some care taken to remove those bodies and put them elsewhere.
Are you talking about the bodies from the mausoleum or the
Yes.
bodies of... Okay.
Well, also the bodies of everybody who died there.
Well, I suspect that there was a desire to not leave the building full of corpses. As far as the bodies in the mausoleum, it may have been that there was a desire to avoid grave robbing, and so there was a preemptory step to move those remains to a more protected mausoleum somewhere controlled by the the Empire, perhaps in the Old City. But I could investigate that specifically. Are we expecting that there's any particular Like, are you assigning any kind of a suspicious motive here, or
No, I just thought it might be somebody who cared about the fate of the place.
Or
Well,
maybe you
it's-
can fill in some of the answers. Although from our experience with Ellister, they don't seem to be necessarily forced to say anything detailed.
It's certainly true that we don't have a lot of information about the days that immediately followed that night. Obviously, the attack was discovered by others, and you said that the house had been boarded up. I'm sure that happened at some point. Someone had gone in there, but it's also true that we don't know who that was specifically or what direction they were operating under.
I mean, it's possible we could go back to the real estate agent we got the deed from, but I got the feeling that everything he knew he told us. There was some mention of him maybe sending over something, papers of some kind, maybe, but a letter?
Well, bear in mind that that would have just been yesterday, so you don't
Well,
have all of that.
for them,
Yeah.
it's been like 3 days for us.
Yeah, so that stuff has not arrived.
But said real estate agent, Mr. Lunaros, he might know.
We should also check in on him and see if he's still having nightmares.
Well,
I
said
bet he
that-
isn't.
He said the first 3 days he was plagued with nightmares, but then he offloaded those other 2 properties and was no longer plagued with nightmares.
No, it was
How did all the rest of you sleep?
It was offloading the other properties and then placing the academy
that's what
in
it
the
was.
trust, right? Like, so it
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah,
like
but it was-
technically
yeah, it was like-
his. It was sort of an arcane / legal loophole.
Right.
How did
But
everybody
after
else
3
sleep
days he
last
was
night?
fine.
Did anybody have nightmares?
I didn't.
No, I don't think so.
I don't sleep.
I don't either.
Oh. That probably means no nightmares. You're really lucky. But we should be on the watch for that. I wonder, Lord Relenth, was your sleep okay? Since you're technically the one who owns the property, I guess.
Well, I would say I did not have any unusual dreams.
Well, isn't it
Maybe his brother did.
technically, yeah, your brother?
Well, I could reach out. I haven't spoken with him this morning.
What's your brother's name?
It is Aoife, I think. Let me. Sorry, one moment. As I recall my brother's name.
Please wait. Insert disc 2, side 2.
Yeah. Sorry, gosh. Where do I have that? I'm sorry, I don't have my notes organized as well as I needed them to be. Okay, here we go. Yes, Aoife is his brother. Younger brother, but, became the head of the house once I abdicated.
How do you spell that?
It is once both he and Yobert have uncommon spellings compared to our sensibilities, but it's spelled Aoife, but spelled pronounced Aoife. So I am already preparing to notify him that there has been a property transfer and that he can expect more details within a week.
Well,
And-
if he is having nightmares, that might be a good argument for giving it to the church.
No, that'd be an argument for not giving it to them. I hate for, well, what did you say? Orphans to have nightmares? The
Well, but they
students were
wouldn't
going
own
crazy. No, but they'd be there. I don't think anybody should stay in that place yet.
Oh, I agree with you, but I think it's going to be a while yet.
I think it will definitely be a while. It needs to be cleansed spiritually, and there's a lot of physical work to be done.
I wouldn't jump too quickly to the cleansing. I can learn a lot.
I think that if we sort of briefly, montage out, when we already discussed that Zinhorn would be working with some representatives of the church to kind of determine what renovations are needed. We can say that that's happening in parallel with Nedry doing some additional studies and so on. But, that's kind of, projected into the future a little bit as you're having this discussion. Yobert would say the other question I think that we need to resolve is the artifacts that you recovered. Some of them, there may be some question. One of the questions that certainly will be asked by my brother is if any valuable items were removed from the house before any of this is turned over. Now, I believe that we don't necessarily, so this comes into the whole question of secrets. Nedry, for example, would you suggest here that we ought to be completely upfront with my brother and tell him everything about everything that we recovered there, knowing that it is possible that he may wish to claim some of them?
Well, I need to
I don't
study
think
them
that's
first.
a good idea. See, Nedry, this is when you, the whole, secrets thing comes into play where it's important. Because what he doesn't know, he doesn't know.
Yeah, but he'll be madder about it afterwards when he does know.
Maybe he
But
won't ever
we can
know.
make a case that these should be studied first.
Well,
I mean, if we don't test them, we can't verify their value.
Exactly.
And technically, some of those things didn't belong to the house. They belonged to Isolde.
And possibly Onyx Bane, depending on how you look at ownership.
Well, I think the person funding us will have a big opinion about that.
It
Yes.
is my experience with these matters that this is a sufficiently complicated situation that were it to come to conflict, the winner would be the individual who cared more and was willing to spend the most money pursuing their claim. There is no definitive, obvious ownership, and so therefore it would be whoever is able to persuade the magistrates.
Well, these things probably shouldn't be owned by anybody, really.
Well,
They
what
should be
done with
researched
them?
and understood.
By whom?
Anyone who wishes to do it, I suppose. I'm hoping to get first crack because I'm here. But others will follow
I'll be
me.
right back.
I think I'd like to deeply investigate that circlet.
I'm looking forward to seeing what it can show. I mean, if it truly can show the veils between dimensions, that's why I want to get back to the house. If there's any remnant left whatsoever, we'll know what to look for. It should be amazing.
I think it's impossible for me to have an opinion on whether your brother, Lord Yobert, should know about them because I don't have any idea what kind of person he is.
He is the sort of person whose primary concern would be the value in either gold or prestige that possessing them would gain him.
That's problematic.
My brother and I don't get along.
I wonder why he feels that way. There's always a reason.
There is, and to do my brother some credit, he does, after all, bear quite a weighty responsibility in running the noble house and the businesses, and he does not do it the way that I would, but it is a substantial responsibility, and there are a number of people who depend on him for that. And so in that sense, keeping an eye on the financial bottom line as well as the reputation of House Relent are not unreasonable concerns.
Is that why you left it all behind? You didn't like doing all that stuff?
No, I didn't like doing that stuff, but I chose to abdicate after an adventurer of mine left me in a state unable to rise to the occasion of the responsibilities that were called upon. And so that was where we came to our current arrangement. It was thought best for the house that I remove myself from the primary rulership. I'm sorry, I'm being vague.
It's all right. We don't. It's not necessarily our right to know.
I'd still like to know.
I think the full story may need to wait for another time, but let's suffice it to say, and he kind of looks up at Brennan, who kind of gives him an encouraging nod, and he says, I used to do my fair share of adventuring, but on one of them I was injured in a rather profound way that was not repairable by healing magic that I have been able to discover. So it left me somewhat indisposed, and that didn't look good for the head of a noble house. So, given that it was not my inclination to wish to do those things in the first place, and that there would be some shame is the wrong word. I certainly don't see it that way, but it was deemed best for all involved that I be given an adjunct claim. Owner of the castle here, and able to pursue my own interests, but not the primary responsible party of the house. That was left to my brother, who is still largely advised by my mother. But I removed myself from that line through mutual agreement, which is not to say good feelings all around.
What's your mother like?
Severe, but not unloving. She cares very much about the legacy of the noble name.
Families are complicated.
Yes. It would not have been my first choice to introduce any of you to them so soon. But at the same time, given that we are coming to them with a substantial new asset and a proposal for what might be done with it in a sense that might improve the family's reputation, that's not a bad gift to bring to dinner. Well, I appear to have killed the conversation, which was not my intention. So we were talking about what to do with the magical artifacts, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For now, until we know more, we should say nothing.
I agree.
I intend to go back to the house with the
Other
circlet
than-
and see what I can see.
Yeah, other than field testing, in which I think it's clear the mirror isn't really practical to take out and about, and the bag, the satchel doesn't without determining its current, I guess, link. I wanted to say owner, but whoever it's linked to, finding out how to break that link, it's not really going to be of any use to us.
I think Sorashana pipes up at that point and says, well, I suppose it must still be attuned to Isilde. That's who it was before, right? Now, it's very
Yes, that
interesting
makes
that,
sense.
why would it still be attuned to her if she is not physically present? Usually that's how attunement works. If you are separated from an item that you're attuned to more than 100 feet for a period of time, usually that would happen. But clearly, whatever her current situation is, if she's trapped in the deck of cards or somewhere else, it's somewhere that either the nature of her current circumstances or the nature of her attunement to the bag made the attunement not break, which is really interesting. But I can't imagine if it's attuned to someone, who else would it be?
Yeah, and
I
not
also-
dead in a conventional sense.
Well, I also have a theory that it has something to do with the special kind of magic they were practicing. Dinetherian magic, if we can call it that. A proper title will probably come out for it later, but it has to
bunch
do
of
with a lot
letters.
of different sort of probabilities that can happen at later times. The very fact that she saw us there, but may have actually been there in the past, sort of suggests that she planned it long ago. And there was a sort of, well, to describe it the way that Tinthus might say, there was a trigger that caused the coincidence that led to the magic happening. So, in a certain sense, she's not actually trapped there because she's still not there now. She's there then. And now she could be somewhere else entirely. Admit this sort of temporal logic gets my head a little bit confused.
But there's
Mine
another,
too, isn't it great?
It is a pleasant feeling, briefly.
There's another thing to consider, which is the way that the deed for the house was left to whoever came asking about it. That kind of presupposes foreknowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. It isn't likely that the broker did that himself. Somebody else had to set that up for him.
Yes, he said that those were the terms of the deed. If I remember correctly, that was set up before he became part of it, or
So what he said was that when it was under his father's jurisdiction, the arrangement was that that it could not be just sold to someone. It was like too relevant and too important to property, and so basically, without really it being an appealable thing, you know, coming down from the emperor's council was like, no, you can't sell it. Period. You have to just leave it the way it is, and that his father had sworn an oath essentially to not sell it and to maintain it in its current state. Like, don't make any changes to it. And he did that basically for as long as he was alive, and suffered nightmares for it. And so that's why when he died, and therefore his oath was fulfilled, he told his son, okay, now get rid of it. But what his son found was like, oh, wait, no, the emperor, there's still a block the sale thing on it that I can't just like put it on the market. But what he was able to do, and he didn't really say who it was, but he consulted with some basically contract, like arcane contract experts, to have it put in a trust where the idea was like, it doesn't belong to him, He's just holding on to it for the true owners. Who is that? Well, it's whoever comes asking about it.
Oh, so he's the one that came up with, or his lawyers came up with that
Right.
plan.
It was
I
basic-
thought that was foisted upon him.
Well, it was not like his idea so much as it was his need for something like that, and his consultation with the arcane contract people that figured out this seems to be something that is enough of a technicality that it dispels whatever effect was giving him the nightmares, but meant that, like, in theory, it's just sitting there like a time bomb, waiting for whoever it is that's going to come along and ask about it.
So, speaking of nightmares, Nedra, you kept all of the notes and things that we found there, right? In the academy?
He flips over his book to where the stack of notes is kind of tucked into the back.
Yep.
Wasn't there one of them that said something about, it was something to the effect of whoever keeps the nightmares has to bear them, or something like that?
Mark draws blank to remember that. Nedry would have a better idea of it to have the notes all in front of him.
Yeah, I think the one that you would be referring to is probably the, let's see, the last line for the last page in journal on third floor bedroom. Let me know if this is not the one you were thinking, but is the to seal away evil means holding on to it forever. Is that
That's
what
the
you were?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem to be a reference to Dawn's tears. In fact, the line before that is Dawn cries for the world. That echoes sort of what was being said by Alistair and Izeld, though.
But
The
what
idea
if-
that in order to protect the place, they had to leave it behind, but they also had to leave everything else behind to know the place.
Well, because my thought here is to seal away evil means holding on to it forever, and there's been a lot of references to nightmares. So what if, I don't know, one of the effects of sealing away nightmares rather than destroying them is that you have to suffer them yourself. But we destroyed that one, so maybe there won't be any nightmares now for whoever owns that property.
Well, the connection might be broken. That's one of the things I want to try to test while I'm there.
I'll
The other
remind
problem
you-
is that... No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
because I didn't give you a handout of this or anything because it was more like the cutscene. But you may recall too that in the memory you saw of Isilda confronting Arcanist Onyxbane, what Onyxbane said is, "You have no right to hide such power from the world. There are evils that roam the plains because you refuse to share what you know." So that's what Arcanist Onyxbane was. Her protest against Isilda was, you're stopping us from defeating evils. And then Isilda said, "Not evils, nightmares."
It's intriguing. Clearly, what they were trying to do with the ritual was some sort of breaching of the seals of Dinethor. At least that's what a lot of it suggests. Maybe they were only partially successful, which was what bound part of that to the building itself. Again, that's part of what I want to test when I'm there. If it is still there, or if there's still a link maintained, well, that's all the more reason that building shouldn't be occupied. That's also why I really want to hear about what somebody has to say about Dinethor.
Well, there's, again, a lot of questions, and
I know.
no way to answer them sitting around here.
So when I notify my brother that we are evaluating the new asset that we have been granted, and that we will present additional details, I will mention only the property for now.
Accurate.
Certainly, and if he asks for it, we can prepare a manifest inventory.
And
Sufficiently vague one, I should hope.
Well,
yes,
certainly until we test things.
I will certainly let you know that I am ambivalent about lying to my brother, but nonetheless, I can recognize that the importance of our mission is of more importance to me than whether or not he is able to sell a dangerous magical artifact for gold.
And the truth is, they're all clues. Or evidence, you might say.
Data.
I agree.
So, with kind of some items set on the agenda, we can perhaps zoom back out a little bit. We know that we already discussed that Zinhorn was going it through and the mansion with some of the church representatives to kind of start putting together the proposal and that sort of thing. And what I had been about to ask before we were interrupted before was that part of what you need to put together is not merely this is what we want to do, because that's to some extent that's your own plans, right? That's not the part of the presentation that is, here's why you, as the legal owner of this property, should do this, right? So you need to try to think about, like, what is the case you're making? If it is simply, this would be great for the city, so that's why you should do it, and appeal to his altruism, that's 100% a legitimate approach. But that's the question, though, is how you want to present it in that way.
I'm thinking altruism. I'm thinking vanity. We name it after him. And I'm thinking enlightened self-interest. More children off the streets, less crime, more tradesmen to staff his businesses and make his business interests successful in the future. And the cachet that goes with having a major building like that in the Church of Rushama bear his family name for 100 years or 200 years or something like that.
I mean, one could even make the case that he could present this to the emperor himself as an idea to put it in his name to demonstrate how much he loves the people of this city and this country.
So, are you discussing this at the house at the same time Nedry will be looking around? Because Nedry's opposed to this idea, and I do think it'd be funny if he injected a few comments here and there. Like the whole idea of the family name is like, well, didn't work out so much for the Chanticleer family, but I'm sure it'll be much better for you.
There is a point to be made there.
Well, so long as they stay away from evil rituals, which I don't believe the Church of Rushama would be doing.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we're not really sure exactly what we're dealing with here. It's going to take a long time to figure that out. And until then, it's probably not safe for anyone. Ignorance is dangerous, after all.
Well, it's obvious based on your assessment of the property that it would take substantial renovation before it could be occupied by anyone in any case, whatever might happen to it, right? So,
Yeah.
So there's no question that, like, there's nobody's going to be, like, moving in the next week, right? It's like...
You're
it's more-
talking a year, 2 years.
Yeah, it's like, here's a plan. We're going to start with, like, repairing any structural damage, like the damage to the floors and that sort of thing. Re-weatherproofing any areas that are exposed to the elements, and start, coming together with a plan of, like, okay, well, what actual damage needs to be done, and then what would you renovate inside, all of those sorts of things. Like, that's a long process. That's not something that happens in a week or two.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, I think that they are walking by having those sorts of conversations. Meanwhile, what is Nedry actually doing at the house, and are any of the rest of you helping him?
I'll definitely
sound-
assist.
Yeah, it sounded like Sequential was interested, and definitely
Mm-hmm.
Nedry would invite Sorashana.
Okay. I think Sorashana is like she's conflicted, but I think that every time she starts to like agree, she kind of hesitates and just says, "I, you, you know what to look for. I think I've got a lot to look at with the things here, and I've got research that I can do here. I think that like you've been in there already, so like you're kind of like you know what you're looking at there, and I think it's just I'll just stay here."
Are you sure? I could really use your insights. You know things that I'm just grasping at.
You want to make a persuasion roll?
Sure. That's an 11.
Okay. She says, I think I think you can do it. Just take really good notes, and I'll have my insights here.
Okay, just be prepared. I've got a lot to talk about when I get back, I'm sure. And I have a lot of notes, too. I'll try to explain what they mean.
So the intention is to go to the house, to use the Deep Jade Circlet to try to see if there are remnants of multidimensional veils, crusts, whatever the hell they were called.
Okay. So you are going to attune to it then?
Yes.
You can go ahead and add that to your character sheet if you haven't already, and attune to it. And so you would have then all of the properties that it describes there.
And does it change the way that things look? I don't know how the perception part works. If it just triggers off when you happen to hit something, or if it's constantly charged like a.
I think it's just a little bit like if you had like a little earpiece in that just detected like radio frequencies or something like that, right? Like it's just sort of a little bit of an extra sense.
Is that on my end? Sorry, everything froze up for
okay.
after radio waves that.
No, it's
everything
just
froze, so.
you have just a little bit of an extra sense where you can detect these areas of like interplanar friction. Although what I will say is that like as you are moving through the house and around the grounds there, you definitely determine that there are no active ongoing like openings or portals in the house. There's still a little bit of what you might call background radiation. Like there's it feels like the fabric of the dimensional plane is still a little bit fragile here, but that would be to be expected based on your experience. But it does appear, as best you can interpret this new sensation that the circlet is giving you, it does appear that the demi-plane that had been created inside the house has collapsed and is no longer active.
Okay.
I can see some of the remnants. At the very least, I'll be able to detect when something is closed. I do have to go back to the inn at some point and see if we can detect where the disposal was. If there's any remnants there as well. This thing is pretty amazing.
And I'm going to actually suggest you go to the other three characters because they all have a scene. And I've had lots to say.
Yeah. Well, we'll do
Sequential
that.
also as
yeah.
well. But.
No, we will. So what I will just like add though is that like just for everybody's mental picture, this circlet that had been sized for a dwarf's head magically shrinks to fit Nedry's gnome head when he attunes to it, and so he's now wearing this dark green stone circlet with a strong central piece on it.
This thing is amazing. It'll help a lot.
The one last thing that I'll say as you inspect is that the two minor outbuildings that you hadn't looked in before. One was just a tool shed with a hole in the ceiling from where presumably, one of the people was thrown out the window. And then the other was an external kitchens. And you also determined, although I don't think anyone actually went down in there, but you are pretty sure that the well in the basement does connect to the city sewers. So it would not be a well that you would probably want to get drinking water from, but it would be a well that, wastewater could be put down.
It's just another kind of disposal, really.
All right, so I think, we've got Sequential and Zinhorn and Nedry busy with that over the next few days. So what about Zaleen, Carolina, and Trina?
Oh, we're having all kinds of fun.
Yeah, do tell.
Well, I think Carolina would have been most excited about this. And in preparation, properly decked out, Zaleen probably found a large hat for her, and in addition to the sunglasses for the afternoon portion of the outing. And then would make sure that there was room in her pack to stash those later, so Zaleen didn't have to carry them around. But yes, she would definitely be leading them on a sort of colorful tour of Pashan, a lot of which she would be taking them to a lot of different street corners and stuff to just kind of point out, different people and businesses, because this was something that she did a lot of. She frequented these busy kind of intersections, doing little street performances before she found her permanent gig. So she knows where kind of these more densely populated areas are, and if there was interest expressed in exploring less or areas with less people, then that would be next up.
One thing I guess I would ask is, are you taking them to sort of ordinary places or touristy places? I'm just thinking about when family comes to visit me here in Boston, I don't just take them to, the grocery store that I usually go to. What I take them to is, the tourist locations, right? But I mean, it's a question of are you trying to show them here is the actual city around you that you're going to interact with if you stay here? Or are you saying, here's all the cool stuff that people travel to Pashan to see?
I think it might be a slight mix. I think the tourist spots that we did hit that had any historical relevance might be kind of incidental, because the more interesting things kind of happen around those bits. Yeah, so she would point those out in as much as she knew about them. Because she doesn't have this huge proficiency in history or anything, but anything that she heard just hanging around, which some of it might not be accurate because there are those little fake tour groups that come around the city, and she would definitely point those out.
Trina would be interjecting her favorite places, which are all scent-based, so it's food, flowers, anything that smells good. She's going to be like, oh, they have really good sweet pastries over there. Oh, that place has really pretty flowers I've never seen before. They smell so great. That's the limit of her contribution on the tour.
Oh, this really lovely garden in it's just past downtown Pashan, and it's sort of separate from a larger manor house, but it is open to the public. But they have some beautiful flowers that they had imported from the Feywild, actually. And asking Trina if she had ever been there to see those in her explorations.
Oh, I definitely spent a lot of time there. That became one of my favorite places for a while. I would circle back there every day for a couple weeks on my little walk around tours. 5 stars, high recommend, Zaleen.
Let's go there.
So
maybe as the sun went down, take her to one of the higher buildings. Obviously it would be better to see from like the Skyport Tower thing, but to take in the sunset and the shifting colors as it hits
Yeah.
all the different windows and everything as night starts to fall.
Yeah. So like if for example you went up on the Sky Tower, which is again it's kind of this real extremely tall tower with these big platforms that stick out from it, almost like leaves coming off of a plant stalk. But you can go way high up there, and there's as the sun sets, there's a little bit of a like translucent, almost aurora in the shape of an enormous jellyfish that kind of hovers over. It's the spirit of the Sky Tower, and and it kind of picks up the colors from the sunset and just the whole city, and just kind of the interesting elements of it's getting darker, and so things are changing from what they were during the day, but there's still a lot happening. The cargo areas of the Sky Tower are calming down, but some of the other nightlife areas are just picking up, and the lights start to go on all over the city with continual flame, street lights all over the place, and it's I think it probably seems beautiful to me.
Hmm. She's mostly just been wide-eyed the whole day, not really saying much, but just taking it all in and eating pastries, things like that.
So Carolina would be careful not to overwhelm her too much with a lot of talking, and making sure to give her breaks to allow her to stop and appreciate things, or if she had questions, she could ask them. But I mean, it is a lot, and it's hard to not be overwhelmed by like this huge city. So yeah, no, we're not going at like a breakneck pace or anything like that. It's very casual, but
Question:
I guess
do you go and check out this the Elder Street Bridge in advance? Like check out the scenery there, the lay of the land?
my suggestion would be not until it got dark, so we could see like
Oh yeah,
where the
what it would be
shadows
like.
fall
Sure,
and things
yeah.
like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I do have a map for that if you all want to see it.
Yeah.
You guys may not actually see it if I don't put your tokens on it. Do you got? Well, so if you look at my screen, you should see it. But
I see it.
Okay. So yeah, this is the basic layout. Now, what you'll notice is that's a little bit, perhaps a little bit confusing from the perspective of that you all would be coming from, which is that the note did say under the bridge, but there is like water in that canal right now, and so there are some little boats, and there's like ladders that are really ideally you would imagine for people who like if they fell in they need to be able to get out, right? So that's what those are for usually. And there is a boat, but like there's not really like somewhere to stand under the bridge. It's not like there's a little platform there or anything.
So I'd probably like bend over the railing of the bridge and kind of look around under it to note such things. Like, that's weird.
What's that thing just south of the
It's right here.
bridge?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my next question.
It's a statue.
What is it a statue of? Does it move?
I think that is probably not an animate statue. It's just an ornamental statue, I think, of perhaps one of the great generals of the empire from generations past.
Well, I guess you would have to take a boat to get down there. Is there enough room under the bridge for like a boat to?
Yeah, it's about so from the street level down to the water is about 10 feet, and so the bridge, is there's like some thickness to it, but there's if you were sitting in a boat, probably if you were trying to stand up in the boat under the bridge, it might be a little, like there's not a lot of room, but you certainly can take the boat under the bridge without difficulty.
And Nedry's short anyway, so.
There's an alleyway between the two houses to the southeast. Yeah, right there.
One up here also to the north.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like, if Trina is invisible with Nedry, I could be in one of the alleyways and Sequential could be in another one.
Mm-hmm.
Zinhorn, when did you get here?
I've always been here.
Well, we can imagine that you sketched it or something. You sketched the
Yeah.
basic
Okay.
layout for
Stop.
discussion later.
Yeah, so Carolina would definitely be would have brought some paper because she told Nedry she would, and to sort of draw all of this stuff as I mean, without having an aerial view and stuff of it. Maybe sketch out a few places and rough it out a little bit, map wise. Make a few notes because she knows he likes notes. So are these these little spots here? Are these oh, I've got the wrong thing on. Huh? The things like this, are those drainage?
Yeah, those are like storm drains, and so they drain right into the canal. I mean, it's literally what the canal is for. It's kind of a big storm sewer.
All right. And are these just houses around here then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they all currently occupied and lived in? And
This is a reasonably it's like I mentioned, it's not like a slum or anything, but it's also just kind of it's a little bit more rundown than some other parts of the city, but the houses do seem to be occupied. They're not boarded up or anything.
okay.
But it's the sort of place where you imagine that especially at night, this area wouldn't get a lot of foot traffic except for people who live in the area. So,
Guys,
Okay.
see anything else that sticks out to you?
I'm just looking at it to try to picture what the best shadowy areas would be at night. I mean, this looks like a daytime map, so
Yeah.
how well lit would this be at night?
well, I think that right now there are continual flame street lights. So there would be light in along the streets, and coming from some of the windows, but in the alleys would probably be pretty dark, and certainly under the bridge would be very dark, unless there was something specifically to give off light placed down there.
Okay. So I could potentially hide under the bridge.
If
And-
there was some place to stand.
Yeah.
We need an invisible raft.
Well, can't you be on a small boat right under the bridge itself?
I mean, I could be.
That would
But-
look a little suspicious, I would think.
Yeah.
Who's going to see you?
Person Nedry is meeting.
I mean,
See
if somebody
the raft.
invisible was on the boat, that would be different.
Well, if they're invisible, then they could just be hanging
Right
out.
there.
Yeah. Hanging out by the statue or something.
I think we should.
Are those
I-
barrels along the side?
Yeah.
I think we should, just as we have ways to be invisible, they may have ways to detect that. So maybe we shouldn't have people that are right on top of the situation, even with invisibility.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mine's not invisibility.
Okay. Well, I don't.
It's-
Yeah, I don't have any of these kind of tricks, so I don't
Well,
know
yeah,
how they
so,
work. I'm
yeah.
just.
Zeline has the ability to to turn herself like at like a totally featureless shadow silhouette, right? So just realized
Sure.
on the map.
Sure, yeah,
everyone's
that's
name
just what
placed her.
Trina would have said. Trina doesn't know anything about magic. She doesn't have it. She's dumb to it. So she's just like, somebody bad might know how to spot us anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and shift us back to the other screen, just because we're not quite at that meeting yet. But so after sort of checking out the scenery there, like, do you have evening plans now for this girls' night out?
Well, my question would be to Zaleen. Do you prefer someplace with music or someplace that is quieter to have a conversation?
I like music.
Perfect. Me too. And I would draw on my knowledge of the city to find us a pub with a bard who I knew, or music performance of some kind that I knew was quality, but maybe not expensive. Although we do have some money, so it doesn't have to be like,
Yeah. Well, and like cover charge for any of these places is going to be like 2 silver or something like that. It's not. But so here's the question though. You know that there are places that are like full on like dance clubs, complete with like illusory lights and dance floor and special effects and all of that sort of thing. Or there are places that it's a little bit more like maybe a moody jazz club or something like that. What kind of place are you thinking?
well, that would be guided by Zaleen.
I don't know these things. I don't know what those things mean.
Well,
I
do you
just know
want
that I like
something faster that you can dance to, or just something meant more for you to sit and enjoy?
Let's dance.
Okay.
All right.
Dance club it is.
Dance club montage.
I do lots of shots. I'm dancing like Commander Shepard,
What is that?
Is this your favorite pub in all of
This is
Bashan?
my favorite pub.
Yeah.
Hooking up with hot drow guys, whatever.
Nice.
That's what you needed. That's what Zaleen needed. She's going to know everything after tonight.
Yeah. So I mean, are you all like, are you partaking of alcoholic beverages, or
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would follow the lead of the other two, because
Wait,
it's a
is-
bonding thing.
Is Trina about to get really drunk?
Stick around and find out.
Trina probably has to drink a fair amount.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
We just got paid.
Yeah. And she's been really, really well behaved while we've been at the Flying Castle, because, on the clock and, all of that. But she's going to let her trunk down tonight, y'all.
Very nice.
I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a good thing. Guess we'll find out.
Trumpeting along to the
now.
beat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spinning a glow stick at the end of the trunk.
Undeniably. Or
Yeah.
a candle, whatever translates. A double lit candle. I don't
Oh
know.
no, they definitely have like glow stick equivalents, because if you think about it, it's just the light cantrip you could cast on anything,
Oh,
right?
well, then she's
I have
she's
dancing lights. I have dancing lights.
So do I.
4 of them.
yeah.
We can
Well,
do
and the
8
thing-
of them because I have it too.
Right. And remember, as we established, some of those low level types of magic spells are like much more common in our world of Sekamian now. And so like the idea that a dance club has all of these sorts of illusions ready
Oh,
to
I
go
love it.
and permanently enchanted into the dance floor and manipulated by an in-house illusionist is like absolutely a thing.
There's a skilled bard in the back with a huge tuba. Getting the womp womp going.
Yeah.
So, Christiana, would this be the kind of nightclub that would have the magics to do a foam party, like a proper foam party?
I mean,
You had the
maybe.
bread spreader.
Like,
It's basically just producing a ton of bubbles that she
Yeah.
could slide around in, because that was a dream that wasn't quite fulfilled during the
Aw.
death murder
Yeah,
adventure.
well, I think they don't. It's not happening tonight, but you see, if, like, oh look, you can come back on Tuesdays.
Oh.
The most I could do prestidigitation. That might give you some bubbles.
Well, bubbles or not, she's going to be practicing her slide for Tuesday night, so that's happening.
Very nice.
Slide to the left.
So how about I would like each of you to make 2 checks for me. The first would be a performance check for your dancing, and then a Constitution check for just
Yeesh.
how you're dealing with the alcohol.
So, like, is this a disadvantage situation since we've been drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's like, it's
Performance.
one thing. It might be disadvantage if this was a case of like, oh my gosh, you're performing a special ballet in front of the emperor. Better
Yeah.
be good. No, this is like, kind of like, it's
Girls'
almost,
night out.
It's half how much fun are you having, and half how much are you impressing the other people who are also drunk dancing.
Oh, I'm definitely Commander Shepherding this shit.
What was the other check? Constitution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I said
Reiner rolled
Constitution
an
check, but a save is
18.
fine.
An 18 for performance and a 2 for constitution.
Wow.
She's having
So-
a great time.
Trina is out dancing you all, but I think after a moment, there's one of those kind of stops, sways a little bit, kind of walks over by the wall, hand up on the wall.
Puts my trunk on the wall too. I need all appendages
Tripod.
on deck.
Yeah. 3-point stand.
I'm like a star against the wall, 2
Yeah.
feet on the ground and everything else against the wall.
In any case, it sounds like you're all having a pretty good time, and so you eventually make your way back home, I gather.
Oh yeah, totally. Are we taking the stairs and just like stumbling up like 30 flights of stairs smashed? Because that's hilarious.
Stop and
We
get,
spent
like,
all of our money on drinks.
stop and get street food on the way back up the stairs.
Yes, because of all those little food courts, and Trina's hungry.
Yeah. Very nice. So I think you all have a good evening. But as you are kind of turning in for your long rest, Zaleen, you are still probably a little woozy from the the alcohol. But tell me how Zaleen is feeling about just all that.
She had fun. Something that she never did before. And she doesn't quite know what to make of it, but she knows that she liked it.
Mhm.
And she wants to do it again. But some of it was scary.
Hmm.
It was very big and overwhelming, and there was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So she kind of wavers back and forth between that giddy excitement and the fear of having to go through all of that again to get to the good part. That it was very scary.
Mhm.
And that,
Aw.
like, even though they were in this club with a lot of people, that didn't bother her near as much as being in streets crowded with people, moving through the everyday motions. Like in the club, she felt more free.
So I think as Zaleen is settling into her trance for that evening, you feel a slow, comforting, restful sinking into the embrace of darkness. This is not scary darkness. This is wrapping yourself completely into the cozy, warm blanket of darkness. And as you're sinking into this trance-like state, kind of reflecting on your experiences of the day, and then kind of feeling yourself sinking deeper into this darkness, you hear the voice of the Mistress of the Dark speak to you. It says, "There is rest that awaits the worthy, but there are those who would disturb the rest rightfully earned. Those whose very nature disrupts the peaceful calm with fear and confusion. You struggled under their foul influence. Your amnesia and your new mortal friends are a mercy. You were rescued by mortals, but it is through my grace that you exist in a form where your valor and empathy can bring peace and rest to the worthy. This is your task, and I will grant you the means." And the crystal key that you wear around your neck rises into view, the only thing visible in this ocean of velvet blackness. One day, this key will unlock a door, and when it does, your task will be complete.
I will do whatever you ask.
There
I'm
is
just
no
picturing in the background as she's having this moment. Carolina has passed out on top of Trina, kind of bent over backwards and just snoring.
Yeah. So yeah, we have that image of Zaleen in the darkness with the glowing key, and then as we kind of zoom back out and fade back into seeing Zaleen still sitting there in her trance pose, and then as the angle widens, we see Trina and Carolina just
Probably
Sprawled.
using her trunk as a blanket.
yeah.
It's a bonding
I love
moment.
my heffalump.
All right, so I think that's actually a pretty good place to draw us to close for tonight. So we will, continue on and find out what happens next for the Pocket Protectors next week. But in the meantime, we've got Smartermaster with a question for Carolina. Which party member would you reveal yourself to first, assuming you have a choice?
Assuming I have a choice, well, right now my feeling is probably Trina. She seems like the one that I could trust the most and who only just wants to protect. Zaleen I don't know quite well enough yet, and Father Wilthram said I could trust Zinhorn. Sequential seems like he would be very logical about it, but I'm a little hesitant to tell Nedry.
More
see.
questions.
Oh
He
yeah.
might try to cut a piece off of me to study, I think.
Does it grow back?
Oh, Lord.
How will we know until we try?
You don't need all your fingers. Besides, you can probably make another one.
Zinhorn would grow
Maybe
it
it's
back
his
for you.
right to know.
I think it's cool, though, that we have identified that it's Nedry's right to know, not everybody's right to know everything. Because as soon it was, we might lose these. Well, I don't need to know yet, right? Right? Yeah, no, yeah. That's going to help us a lot along the way.
Sure. So we've got a question for Zaleen. Which one of your new friends do you think you've taken the most shine to so far?
Trina, because she was so protective and comforting. But like Nedry is a second close because he's so in your face, like just asking all these questions. And there's a part of her that wishes she could answer his questions because she thinks that would make him happy. So it's like Trina and then Nedry, like right there.
Question for Nedry. What would you do if you discovered that a party member had a big secret?
I think,
And not
first
the
of all,
obvious one.
Yeah, no. And there's probably a whole bunch of them, which is going to be fantastic. I think that, before very long, no matter what his first reaction would be, his second, third, and 4,000th reaction would be a series of questions, because he would just want to know everything about it. And even then, I think that, that's the interesting thing about Zaleen, is Zaleen doesn't know, and he's kind of like, I could keep asking questions, but I can't get answers. This is frustrating. But it depends too on the secret. It absolutely depends. If it's something where he feels like he's been lied to, I'm sure that would be a very different reaction to something which is, as he said before, like an unimportant secret. He doesn't care about those. So if you were to admit, for example, like, well, I once cheated on a math test, he'd be like, well, that's appalling, but I don't care. So it would depend on the secret and how much he feels like he was betrayed by them not telling him.
All right. I think that does it for tonight. So thank you, everyone, for watching. We love you, whether you're watching us live and participating in the chat, or whether you're catching us on VOD or in the podcast forum. We love you, and we will be back next week for more adventure on so many
So many levels.